Hey guys, I'm back at it once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome to episode 13 of the Online Racer for Formula 1 2012 online multiplayer gameplay featuring Formula 1 based commentary topics, all live commentary. This time around, I'm going to have a little bit more fun with this episode. I'm normally, quite serious and topical when it comes to online race episodes, but this time I'm going to have a little bit more fun with this thing. And it goes back to an idea I did on Saturday. And on Saturday, during Monaco's qualifying session, I was comparing a lot of Formula 1 drivers to NFL teams. Now, for those who don't know, I'm a big American sports nut in general. I'm a sports guy. I'm a big sports guy in terms of there's not very many sports I actively will try to avoid. I really should watch more motorsport, to be honest with you. But there's not very many sports I actively don't watch, and I'm a big New England Patriots fan, for those who didn't know already, and I do watch the NFL every year. So I kind of had this little fun thing where I was trying to compare Formula 1 drivers to NFL teams in their recent fortunes. And I came up with a list of a few here that I'd like to share, and I thought some of them were actually quite fun to compare, and I'd love to get you guys involved in some of this as well. So yeah, here's a few Formula 1 driver based NFL comparisons that I came out with. Don't worry, you don't have to be an NFL fan to get any of these, because I will explain some of these as well, so hopefully you'll be able to relate more to what I'm saying. So the first one that came out on the top of my list was Fernando Alonso, and I was comparing him to the team I support, the New England Patriots. Why is that? There's a lot of similarities there. Fernando Alonso is generally and rightfully regarded as probably one of the top 3 drivers in this sport. I've seen many people think he's the best in the world, and there's a very valid argument to that. And it reminds me a lot of New England. And New England are an NFL team that are constantly put towards the top of power rankings, Super Bowl contenders, being the best team in the league and whatnot. It's very similar to Fernando Alonso as well in the terms of they haven't won anything in a long time. This is the 7th season since Fernando Alonso won his 2nd world title back in 2006, and New England hasn't won a Super Bowl in a decade now. They've come close before, like Alonso I think is a 2-time runner-up since winning those 2 world titles with Renault, and New England have been to 2 Super Bowls and lost in the last 10 years as well. I think in New England it was 2007 where Tom Brady, the quarterback, had the 50 touchdown season, and 2012 when we went 13-3, miraculously beat the Baltimore Ravens, made it to the Super Bowl, and then lost to the Giants again. And I'll get to the Giants in a minute because they're also on this list with somebody else. But that was a comparison I really like to make, like constantly feared, always amongst the top tier, the elites in the sport, but actually hasn't won anything in a long time. And those guys, those 2 teams and those 2 franchises in Alonso and New England definitely have that same similarity of constantly getting a free pass for not actually winning anything, but still are regarded as the top of their sport, you could say. Sebastian Vettel was another one that I came up with, and Sebastian Vettel reminds me a lot of the New York Giants. Now, the New York Giants won the Super Bowl in 2012, they won one in 2007, which were both major upsets, you could say. And the thing with that was, I think Vettel is a lot like the New York Giants because the New York Giants quarterback is Eli Manning. And Eli Manning is a guy who's won 2 Super Bowls, he's a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. He's had major success, but he still has yet to convince a lot of people about his true ability and his true status as an NFL quarterback, in the same way that Sebastian Vettel has failed to prove many fans about his driving ability. A lot of people say that, oh, it's all the car and whatnot. It's the exact same deal here with Eli Manning and here his ability with the New York Giants as a quarterback. It's the exact same thing. Has the success, has the credentials, has the resume, has the portfolio, but it's still yet to convince people about his true ability. I know a couple of people have always told me that they won't be convinced by Vettel until he wins the title with 2 different teams, to which my response has always been, do you know how hard that is to do? It's an achievement that not many have pulled off, let's put it that way. So I think that the Vettel New York Giants comparison is definitely a logical one that makes a lot of sense. Most definitely. Lewis Hamilton Now, Lewis Hamilton, I compared a lot to the Green Bay Packers. You know, the Packers had their success. They had their Super Bowl win in 2010, and was it 11? I'm not sure. It was one of those 2 years. I'm sure somebody will clarify in the comments like they always do. But he's had their major success, and they're led by Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers is one of probably the best quarterback in the league. And I know a lot of people out there will say Lewis Hamilton is the best driver in the world, pound for pound. And I might be doing another online race of talking about a pound for pound list. As my friggin' Skype goes off, my god. I really should have turned that thing off when I was starting this commentary. But another comparison to make is that Lewis Hamilton has a very, very definite, dedicated fan base. It's the British thing, because most Formula 1 fans are British by default. And of course, they're going to back a British guy in Lewis Hamilton who has so much raw talent. In the same way that Green Bay is a very small community in Wisconsin and has a lot of dedicated fans. They call them cheeseheads because they all wear cheese blocks on their heads in Wisconsin. And they have that very hardcore, dedicated fan base. And that's why I was comparing Hamilton to the Green Bay Packers. They're successful. They arguably have a kingpin player in Aaron Rodgers, who is, you know, one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the league. You know, it makes a lot of sense to compare him to Lewis Hamilton. Now, I got one for Sergio Perez as well. Sergio Perez, I compared him to the Washington Redskins. Now, for those who don't know the Washington Redskins, they're a team that has had success in the past. To make sense of McLaren and whatnot. But Washington basically got so much better when they drafted Robert Griffin III last season. You may have heard of him, the Pro Bowl selected quarterback from last season. He was drafted from the University of Baylor after winning the Heisman Trophy last year for being the best collegiate player in the game. When they drafted him last year, Washington suddenly got so much better. They made the playoffs that year. They went 10-6 that year as a football team. And Sergio Perez reminds me a lot of Robert Griffin in terms of coming in and making a team better. And I think that's what Perez has done. I mean, I think Sergio Perez is a young talent who has still... I think he's one of those guys that feels like he has a chip on his shoulder and constantly feels like he's got something to prove to people. And I think he's been trying to do that a lot ever since he joined McLaren, because it makes sense. Perez is 23 years old. Young Checo had a season where he raised a lot of eyebrows with Sauber, because Sauber was always consistent, but also had 2 or 3 or 4 outstanding performances in Formula 1 last season. In the same way that Robert Griffin made the Redskins better, Perez made the Sauber team much better, and he caught a lot of attention quite early on, and the media got behind him in the same way that a lot of casual fans got behind Perez for being exciting and for being this guy that could potentially, given the opportunity, be a big star. And I think that's what Perez could do now. And now he's got that McLaren number 2 seat locked down. Or it's not really a number 2 seat because McLaren run an equal driver system. So, you know, technically speaking, they're of equal standing. But yeah, I mean, I compared Perez a lot to the Washington Redskins and Robert Griffin. That's definitely a comparison out there that I think makes a lot of sense. Got a couple more here. I've got Kimi Raikkonen, and Kimi Raikkonen reminds me a lot of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens have got a lot of things to dislike about them in terms of Joe Flacco being really boring and quite arrogant, like saying that he said last season that he was the best quarterback in the league and nobody took him seriously, then had an amazing playoff run to take Baltimore to the Super Bowl and win this past season's Super Bowl. They're the reigning world champions, the Baltimore Ravens. But there's also a lot of reasons to like them too, and I think Kimi Raikkonen might be the most popular driver in Formula 1 in terms of universally liked. I think I don't think I've ever seen a Formula 1 fan who dislikes Kimi Raikkonen. I think he's one of those guys that's just universally loved by all. And in the same way that Baltimore had Ray Lewis, who is a guy that has genuinely been appreciated by all NFL fans for many, many years, and has had an outstanding career. You know, obviously retired at the end of the last season, rode off into the sunset with 2 Super Bowl rings, and surely he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, Kimi Raikkonen is one of those guys as well that is just universally loved by Formula 1 fans everywhere because he's a renegade, because he's so different. And, you know, a lot of that applies to Baltimore and their system of being different, of, you know, Flacco being arrogant yet successful in the end and proving people wrong. Ray Lewis being loved by a lot of people. Ed Reed was universally loved as a Baltimore Raven. He's now a Houston Texan. He change teams in this past off-season. But, you know, I think that's another one I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers for Kimi Raikkonen would have made a lot of sense too, in terms of being older and in terms of having success. But the Steelers, I think, are disliked by a lot of people by some of the personalities in that team, like James Harrison, for example, or Lawrence Timmons, or, you know, Ben Roethlisberger after the accusations of rape and whatnot. But that's a story for another video. One more I want to make is Romain Grosjean. And Grosjean, I compared him a lot to the Oakland Raiders. And, you know, Lotus are a popular team in Formula 1, for, you know, for things like their Twitter page, their sense of humour. They just got Daft Punk to represent their team at the just gone Monaco Grand Prix. I love things like that. It's like when Red Bull went down the Star Wars route with George Lucas. That was another really cool one too. But, you know, Oakland is a really popular team. You know, they rock the black and silver. You've probably seen their caps all over the place, almost like the Yankees caps. You know, they're just synonymous with pop culture, and it's the same way with Grosjean. I think he's one of those guys that, you know, is popular. Is like people want to get behind him. The talent is clearly there with the Oakland Raiders too. But they keep making stupid decisions and they keep making bad signings in the same way that Grosjean clearly has awareness issues. I mean, last year he had 9 first-lap collisions and incidents, as well as this year. Obviously, this season, just now, he tagged out Daniel Ricciardo and got a 10-place grid drop for the Canadian Grand Prix next weekend. You know, just the similar levels of incompetence, I think, is the main comparison, despite Lotus's popularity, just like the Raiders are. But that's pretty much all I've got for this one. If you guys have got any more other general sporting comparisons you can make with F1 drivers or F1 teams, I would love to hear them. In fact, if they're good enough and I get enough good ones, I might make a second video about it. And I'd love to do a follow-up to this one, because I know a lot of you guys have some great minds out there. Some of you know Formula 1 a little bit better than I do. So I'd love to hear some of you guys' takes on this as well. Some of these comparisons I made are good, but I think you guys can come up with some even better ones. Doesn't have to be NFL, it can be any sport in general. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys next time. Subscribe, we're nearly at 3,000. Come on, people, let's get over the hump. I've been Harrison, thank you very much for watching, and sayonara.